So, hello and welcome to the New Gig podcast. I'm your host, Glen Hodgson, and today I'm delighted to be joined for our 50th episode by someone very special. It's the academic and author, Dr. Jon Younger. How are you doing, Jon?
Very well, and what an honor to be the guest for the 50th podcast of Free Trade Europa. Thank you for that.
Thanks indeed. So, Jon, let's kick us off by just giving a little bit of background about yourself, what you've been doing, and of course, the broad range of activities in the future of work and the leading light that you are globally on all these topics.
Oh, you're very nice to say so. Yeah, like all interesting careers in the freelance world, I had the opportunity to kind of invent mine. And one of the things that I'd share, Glenn, is I wrote an article today. The article title was essentially "Freelancing provides really unparalleled innovative career opportunities for reinvention." We're able to, particular case in the article, talking about sustainable creatives. That is, creatives who are working at the intersection of sustainability and event planning, and how wonderful and exciting a new career that is. I had a similar opportunity. I was selling the shares of my consulting firm, and I had become interested. I was, at that point, I guess 58. I had done reasonably well. We had taken two companies public in the past, and I was ready to quiet down, not relax, but quiet down. And I became fascinated with the concept of freelancing, and here's why.
Yep.
In 2013, I was invited by a very large pharmaceutical company called McKesson, very well known, to do a business and HR strategy. And I came back about 3 months later, having talked to a bunch of folks. And the CEO and the head of HR said, "What did you find out that we think would be interesting? Kind of, we don't really expect this."
Yep.
And I said, 30% of the workforce in McKesson are people who are not your employees. They are called freelancers. They're working part-time for you. You don't know them, and you apparently don't care about them. And how interesting a thing that 30% of the workforce was unknown to its leaders. That got me going. I wrote a book some years ago with Norm Smallwood called Agile Talent, and people found that interesting. And starting in 2018, I made the happy mistake of sending an article to Forbes saying, "Would you be interested in publishing this?" And they said, "No, we don't accept submissions, but we love the idea of you writing this stuff, so would you write for us on a regular basis?" Glenn, if I write 5 articles a month, I make $250. And
Right.
I have been writing 5 articles a month since June of 2018 without stop. It's been a
Right.
wonderful partnership.
Yeah. Excellent. Excellent. And also, you've been doing a lot of work on the academic side, of course, the global study that you've been doing on sort of
Yes,
freelancing as well. Tell us a little bit about that one, Jon.
sure. With the University of Toronto, my alma mater, and a great university, they agreed to do a project with me together.
Mm.
We, we convinced 77 platforms around the world in 30 countries to participate, and got 2,000 wonderful responses from freelancers around the world. And here's what we've learned in the nutshell. What we've learned is that people in the freelance world are ambitious, they are opportunistic, they are excited, they are eager to build their career. There's about nothing that isn't attractive about them.
Mm.
They see the freelance world growing, they see the opportunities increasing, and they need a few things.
Yep.
One is they need more help from their platforms, those who are part of platforms, to get more work, because we know that 38% from our study haven't had as much work at opportunity as they wanted.
Right.
62% did. We've also learned something very important, and that is that different industries in different regions offer better and worse client appreciation of what it takes to work well with freelancers. Overall, our data says that about 45% of freelance clients are seen by their freelancers to know how to work effectively with freelancers. Glenn, given the incredible increase in the reliance on freelancers around the world by big companies and smaller companies and by nonprofits, we've really got to train our client companies to do a better job of working with freelancers. They are not full-time employees. They are not supplicants. They are not subordinates. They are peers looking for a relationship with a company, peer-to-peer, business-to-business. We've got to get more excited and more aware of what that looks like in behavioral practice.
And Jon, what do you think the reason is for this? Because I mean, as more and more people want to go towards sort of a flexible structure, want to move away to the 9 to 5, but it seems like organizations, companies, they've still got a very old-fashioned mindset. They don't really know how to work with, let alone respect the open talent that exists there. This seems like a massive opportunity missed at the moment.
It is, and it's some organizations are doing a good job of teaching. I'll give you a few, and then we can talk about an association that we're part of together.
Yep.
So one organization that does a very nice job is Underpins.com. Albert Aziz Clausen runs that organization, and they've done a great job of both training individual freelancers to do a better job of freelancing and training clients to do a better job of being clients. We're also seeing other organizations doing a much better job of starting the process by making sure that clients have a good understanding of how to work effectively with freelancers. Companies like Gig.ai is doing a good job. FreelancerClub.net in the UK is doing a good job. MASH in Australia, Contra in the US. What we're seeing is much more of a kind of freelancer first orientation.
Okay.
That's a contretemps to the reality of businesses these days, and that is, we've had 5,000 years of traditional organization structure and 10 years of digital freelancing. It's going to take a while, but we're making pretty good progress.
Absolutely. And, there are specific opportunities for freelancers as well within this now that more people, and I think that people have got a taste for it during the pandemic, the fact that the digitalization, the digital channels are there, the digital tools are there, but also this kind of mentality that you can work remotely, you can organize and structure your day. So probably the eyes of more and more people are being open to the possibilities that maybe weren't there 2 years ago.
It's a wonderful point, and I've got some very interesting data around it. If you take a look at, I'm just going to use the U.S. data, but it's fairly representative globally. You'd see an awful lot of the same trend in the EU. If you take a look at freelancers in the U.S., and nominally 59-60 million are counted freelancing at this point. Of that, 3/4 are what we call part-time freelance, or they've got a side gig.
Yeah.
Now that creates a dilemma, but also a fabulous opportunity. Let me describe both. The dilemma, of course, is large corporates who are interested in using freelancers and need to use freelancers for a variety of reasons have more trouble with part-timers. They have potential conflicts of schedule, conflicts of who their full-time employer is, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But here's the other side of it. 40% of the U.S. workforce are what we would call freelancer light. That is to say, they have the same expectations as a freelancer, but their expectations are focused on their full-time job. They have the competence and the confidence of somebody who is building their own business. I mean, think about the implication of that. No longer do these employees feel sort of stuck without options in their organization. And as a result of that, what are they asking for? They're asking for and demanding, this is important, they're demanding more interesting work. They're demanding more schedule flexibility. They're demanding more fair pay. They're demanding greater impact in the work that they do. And they're demanding more help around future-proofing their skill set and their professionalism. That is powerful stuff.
Mm,
And that is the other side of the digitization of work. Glenn, having disconnected work to location,
yeah,
two things happen. One is that we've created a whole new highway for financial equality because I'm no longer the victim of where I happen to be born and the
right.
economy that that offers. But the second thing is that as a result of that, I'm able to offer my services to the world. I mean, what a combination. It's a very exciting time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that you put the nail on the head there in terms of what the opportunities are and why people are sort of following this train. And, from the research that you've done, Jon, is there a specific type of skill that's either been offered or is in demand from the marketplace? Is there general trends we see there, or is it more general?
There's a combination of things. First is let me take a minute and describe the sort of the geography of
Please.
freelancing.
Yeah.
What you'd see is that different regions have generated different priorities, if I may call it, in freelancing as a function of their history. So
Mm,
you would see a lot more independent management consulting organizations and a lot more uh, agency disruptors, advertising agencies,
yeah.
marketing agencies, etc. You'd see a lot more of that in Europe than you would in the States. You'd see a lot more tech in the States than you'd see in Europe.
Right.
In Asia, we're just starting to build the freelance category. What we know from our research is about 11% of the folks in our survey were from uh, Asia, about 12% from Africa, about 13%, 12, 13% from Latam. So what we're seeing is a tremendous growth around the world. We're also seeing biases of one kind or another. So, for example, the need for tech freelancers is much greater currently
Yeah.
than the need for agency disruptors or independent management consultants. The second thing that you'd find is that there's a whole bunch of new areas that are coming up. Sustainability, as I talked about earlier, is
Yeah.
certainly one, but there are many, many more. And so what we're seeing is that that the freelance economy is an auto-generative economy in the sense that it's creating more demand as it offers more supply. I mean, it's
Mm.
really very, very cool.
Yeah. And also creating new roles for people as well. I mean,
Yes.
it's what we talk about, this is in the traditional economy, but, new roles are being created, and a little bit like you sort of invented your own out of necessity and sort of using the framework that was there. More and more people seem to be doing the same.
It's absolutely the case. Absolutely the case. And what you're also seeing is that people who are excited about creating a career of their own now have the tools, now have the resources in order to do so. If you were to take an organization, I'll give you one example, which I get very excited about. It's Wetho.co. It's a US based, we call it business in a box. Some other places call it customer relationship management.
Okay.
Honeybook is probably the best known of these, and Oz has done a fabulous job at honeybook.com.
Yep.
Wethos has a very special capability in the freelancer first category.
Mm.
What they're able to do, because they have the data on what people are charged and what people are charging, they're able to help their freelancers figure out what happens if, for example, they want to raise their prices 5 or 10%. So they're able to get data that says, well, 75% of the folks that have done that have been successful,
Mm.
25% haven't. Here are the examples of that. So what we're doing is not only giving people new career options, but as those career categories grow, places like Wethos, Collective, another one of the business in a box, Honeybook, the largest, are able to really give them very, very helpful and useful data to build their business.
Yeah.
So it's a very there's a virtuous circle being created here, which is very interesting.
Excellent. And if we flip the coin over and take the other side of that, what are companies and organizations getting from this? How are they, if they learn how to harness the power of the freelance revolution, what can they get out of this?
You know, there are three things that organizations want from the
Yeah.
freelance revolution. The first thing that they want is discovery. You know, they want the ability to identify organizations that can help them that they're not familiar with. And one of the reasons why the world knows the expression "nobody ever got fired hiring McKinsey" is because McKinsey's got 87 offices around the world. It spends a ton of money on publicity. It puts people in very important positions in governments. It does a very good job of selling its reputation. But there are so many other discovery opportunities that are provided through platforms that give organizations a chance to get to know the perfect person in a certain area. Now, the challenge is, how do they access that person? And that's where digitization, that's where technology becomes so important. They can be accessed electronically, as opposed to the days that I remember where I had to get on a plane and fly somewhere.
Right.
Well, I don't have to get on a plane and fly somewhere to be with you this morning, my morning, your afternoon.
Yep.
I have access. So we've got discovery. You can find people that bring a unique expertise that you need.
Yep.
You have access, the ability to identify them not only, but also access them, bring them into your organization. And here's the third, and it's cost, the ability to fractionalize.
Right.
The reality is that so many startups couldn't get you, Glenn, to work for them because you've got a big reputation. Your prices might be higher than they can afford, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Well, they can't afford a day of your time. They can't afford you full time. Same with me. That's the third. So access, discovery, and cost through fractionalization, the on demand, become the three most powerful things that cause organizations, 97% of big corporates, to say they're going to increase their reliance on freelancing over time.
Absolutely, and I think this is the sort of the call to the market. And what are the barriers at the moment? Who is preventing this? Is it HR departments that aren't really clued in? They see the problems rather than the benefits. They don't understand it. What are the blockages? Would you say, Jon?
Great question. I think one of the things that we can agree on is there are old shibboleths. I love using that word. It's a wonderful word. And, the belief that somehow if you were really good, you'd have a full-time job.
Right.
Belief that freelancers are just people looking for work. They're in between jobs. And by the way, the reality is that. And then there's the third myth, which is, if you're over 35, you're not going to be a freelancer. Right. Well, it turns out that 30% of freelancers are over 50. Yep. It turns out that 70% of freelancers are currently making as much or more than they would have made as a full-time employee.
Right.
And it turns out that freelancers in general spend more time future-proofing themselves than regular employees, even though they have less access. About 68 to 70% of freelancers say, I put serious time into building and rebuilding my skills on an annual basis. But what I would also say is that HR is an interesting dilemma. I've written about HR multiple times. Here's the challenge, Glenn, for HR, and it's a legitimate challenge. I was the head of. I've been a very senior member of HR teams, senior vice president of the fourth largest of HR for the fourth largest bank in the United States, as a freelancer, part time, and here's what I've learned. Nobody in HR ever learned how to architect a workforce. We know how to administer a workforce in HR. We know how to develop a workforce. We know how to hire individuals, but we don't know how to architect a workforce. And HR is almost never involved in scaling a workforce, right? So part of the challenge for HR is that all of its bread and butter is about full-time people. Yes. We're the outlier here. Yeah. So they haven't really paid very much attention to us. And the reality is in fact, we'll continue to be the outlier because for many of those organizations, they have no interest in developing the workforce that's needed for the next generation, which is flexible and blended. but we are seeing more and more organizations pick it up as a possibility. Unilever is a good example of a leading organization in that area, but there are other organizations that really do want to create a flexible blended workforce, recognizing that their competitive and technological challenges require more agility than ever
Yeah.
before. And full-time traditional workforces are anything but agile.
No, exactly. And as we see from sort of the economic requirements at the moment, need
Exactly.
specific expertise, specific skills, kind of a laser surgery needed at certain times for sort of time definite, but very specific skills, knowledge, and expertise. And that needs to be sort of injected into the bloodstream of the organization. It's not a
Right.
case of going through a long recruitment process for getting someone on a 9 to 5, 5 days a week contract. It's the talents and skills they have now.
That's right. I think you're absolutely right. And the pandemic has been a wake-up call for people all over the world.
Right.
There's just no doubt about it that people that I talk to, people that I think you talk to, are all saying we we've got to reprioritize our life within our occupation,
Yes.
and that's had a significant impact. Do you know the craziness of this is that all of the data says that people that work for home are actually more productive. The data from office
Absolutely.
productivity, and you know this stuff better than I do, is that in general, people are productive for less than 4 hours a day in an 8 to 9 hour day occupation. So
Yep.
what are they doing the rest of the time? Well, we're not even counting the commute time. That's a gift from employees to their
Yes.
organization leaders. So
Yeah.
what we're talking about is all of the things that get in the way of productivity daily that are missing when you're working from home. Now, not
Yeah.
everybody does a great job of managing that, but what we're experiencing is that this generation has really done a great job, and organizations have done a great job of helping people to learn how to be productive at
Yes.
home. So the tech, the education, the need has all come together to establish a situation where more and more organizations, despite the argument, oh my God, if you're not, there's an interesting argument, which is you won't progress in our organization if you're not around, right?
Right.
So you want to be in your organization there at 7:30 in the morning or 8 o'clock in the morning. Be there till 6 o'clock because that'll give you the opportunities to rub elbows with the people that have an impact on your future.
Right.
To which my response is, and if that's really what people want, they really ought to do that. But how many people don't want that? How many people are not interested in rising? How many people are more interested in their career, their technical expertise, than they are growing within one organization?
Yeah.
What we know is that the average Gen Z is ready to leave within 6 months and looking for jobs within the first 6 weeks,
Yeah.
and typically leaves before 2 years are up.
Hmm.
So what are we talking about anyway? We're already building flexible blended workforces. We're just not building the ones we want. We have the ones that our employees are giving us as they leave, not as good
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
really doing this in a more planful, strategic way.
Absolutely. And I think that, it's self-interest here as well, that if the best talent is wanting to be free, wanting to be open, wanting to be flexible, structures have to change to be able to accommodate the best talent on the market. If
Exactly.
not, you'll miss out on it. So, it's kind of freelancer led at the end of the day, I guess, John.
It's exactly right. And what we're finding is I'm putting together a group in this fall called the Freelancer First Study Group. The
Okay.
idea is to put 12 companies together, and each company is a leader in Freelancer First. And the idea is each month, one company will present all of the others, and at the end of the 12 months, we'll pull it all together and create a report that's shared quite widely on what it means and how you build
Yeah.
a Freelancer First platform. I'm very excited about it because there are some really great things going on all over the world. We just need to collect them in a bushel and
Yeah.
share them more broadly.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of learnings to be gained from this process, John. Absolutely, and it's fantastic you're involved in this and it's spearheading the steps forward in the freelancing and future of workspace.
You're nice to say it, but I don't feel like I don't feel like I'm doing that much or enough. So
Oh, really?
what
Okay.
I'm finding is that I'm a good nudger. I'm slightly annoying, which is a good thing, and I'm a good nudger. So for example, Albert, fellow I mentioned earlier from Underpin.com, has created the Association for the Future of Work in the UK. And Glenn, you're
Yeah.
very involved in that as part of the research
Yes.
team, obviously for obvious reasons. Uh, and Albert has done a fabulous job of innovating in this area, and as well
Absolutely.
as building
Yeah.
his own organization. So it's a pleasure to support him as his vice chair.
Mm.
In Spain, uh, we help similarly a group of organizations led by Outvice, a very nice, very important platform in Spain, outvice.com. And Anna, their community leader, and Eusebi, their CEO, formed an organization of Spanish platforms called Our Evolution Spain. Very exciting. I'm talking with Yasmin Kumi of Africa Foresight about about a conference, a summit of freelance platforms in Africa in the spring, and
Fantastic.
talking with Karina Grajavia of Olo in uh, Olo.is in Brazil about a similar kind of initiative in Latam. So it's very exciting to start to see these groups getting together around the
Yes.
world. I, I think that they appreciate the fact that I'm slightly annoying. I think they appreciate the fact that I'm willing to work to help them to do it, et cetera, et cetera.
And
So I think that 2022, 2023 are going to be the best years for freelancing, as good as 2021 was.
yeah, absolutely. And I think sort of sharing that best practice, sharing the knowledge and expertise that exists there, and also giving the self-help guide as well about what freelancers should be thinking about, but also companies and organizations as well, how to get the most out of the open talent that exists and the
Yes,
innovative workforce, which is the reality of today, and certainly even more so tomorrow.
absolutely true. Absolutely true. And we know what companies need to do to get the most from their freelancers. We know that it means six things. May I take people through it?
Take us through the full list, John,
So the
please.
first, thank you. So the first thing an organization needs to do if it wants to have a great relationship with freelancers, it needs to have a clear philosophy about how they're going to use it.
Yep.
And that's simply, are we using folks on demand? Are we using folks on a regular basis? Do we want to build our own white label platform that'll bring people we regularly work with into our fold? We're eager to build a more agile, agile workforce, or are we going to be moving slowly and carefully through this? So one is, what's the plan over the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah.
Because people in your organization are going to want to know.
Mm.
Second, very important to have an effective system of onboarding. That means good scoping. It means clear deadlines. It means good milestones. It
Yeah.
means a realistic budget. Turns out that most freelance platforms spend an inordinate amount of time helping their clients prepare a good scope so that they can put freelancers against it.
Yes.
Third, what we found is that only 40 or so percent of freelancers felt as though the project managers they were working with on their projects and clients really knew how to work with freelancers. This is an obvious area for teaching young project managers, and they are
Yeah.
typically young, that freelancers are not subordinates, they're not semi-subordinates. They are independent professionals who are choosing to work with you, and you need to see them as a stakeholder, not as a quasi-employee.
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of stuff that follows from that we can talk about it at some length in a future podcast.
Yes.
Fourth is, while they're on the job, treat them as part of the team.
Mm.
It's an awful thing to have a different colored badge than somebody else, not be able to go to the same cafeteria as these folks, to not be able to go to the training or the information sessions that other
Right.
members of the team need. For heaven's sakes, while they're in your organization, working on your organization, treat them as part of the team. Fifth, there are some jobs that freelancers should not do because they don't have the relationships. The setup time will take too long. They don't have access to the IP. It's secret in your organization, etc.
Yeah.
So just be smart around what you give them as work. Don't give them situations where they're likely to fail. And finally, treat them with respect administratively and pay them on time.
Yes.
Those are all of the things. Pretty straightforward stuff.
Yeah.
And if you do those 6 things, you will have your pick of great freelancers working on interesting projects, delivering incredible value.
Absolutely. And I think that should be the gospel for the traditional as well as the new economies to be able to follow this, because there's far too many that are lax on several of that list of 6 there, Jon. So I think it's fantastic to be able to articulate this in such a way and have this, as you're saying, we can have this as kind of like the charter that can be used for equitable and respectable companies within this this thing we're calling this the new economy, gig economy, whatever word you want to give to the future of work and what's happening now. But this flexibility and openness that is intrinsic within it is something that should be respected and looked after for now and for the future. Let's be honest.
Amen. I like that very much. That's an excellent summary statement. Terrific.
Excellent stuff, Jon. Jon, really appreciate your time on this Monday morning and really appreciate the thoughts, efforts, and knowledge and expertise that you spread on an ongoing basis. And pleasure to be working with you as well. So look forward to more of it in the future.
Thank you, Glenn. And for folks that may not know, Free Trade Europe is doing an incredible amount of good in the world. Your report a couple of years ago was just fantastic. I know that you're doing really neat stuff now, and the world needs to have more of it. So my view is let's free trade Europe.
Thank you very much indeed. It's a pleasure. Speak to you again soon, Jon.
Take care, man.